Good evening and welcome to Scrapbooking with a Twist. Yes, I have been gone out of no videos for, I don't know, a while, but a couple of weeks or a week at least. But hopefully I'm kind of back. I was sick, but I'm much better. I'm feeling great, as a matter of fact. And I've had company. So, but hopefully hopefully I'm back and I will be able to get some things accomplished. I've got so much to do with everything, but with my scrapbooking especially. I got stuff coming up. I gotta see how this goes. I've got stuff coming up that has got to be done. So today I'm gonna do our Purple Rain embellishment. This is, if you're new to my channel or you're just dropping by or you haven't seen one of the other videos yet, this is a hop that we do. We do an embellishment hop over on Ginger's Corner, and we do it twice a month. And once a month, the hop is basically just a color. And so the first of the month, the hop is a color. And so this month it's purple, and our hop is called Purple Rain. Doesn't have to be about purple rain. It just has to be purple. And so this is what I came up with. It isn't the first thing I came up with, I'll be honest. I thought I was going to do something a little different, but this is what I ended up with. Now, mind you, I don't even drink wine, but in our family, we don't do whining. Like when our boys want something and they don't get it and they whine. We don't do whining. And so we'll say, "Are you going to whine about it?" And they know that means that they're going to get in trouble if they do. And they'll, no, I'm not going to whine about it. Well, on today's embellishment, it's just wine over it. So, and like I said, I don't even drink wine, but I thought that would be cute. And if any of you watch Sandy, it's State Goddess, she has, I think it's Winey Wednesday, and it's Winey, or however she spells it, Wednesday. And she drinks a little glass of wine while she does her layout that day. And I've always thought that was just kind of cute, kind of catchy. But anyway, our embellishment is going to be just wine over it. So if you're on my team and you don't drink wine, use it for the wine, I guess. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going to use it, but I made a couple for me too. But we're going to start, and I did this part, the bottom layer, the second layer, and the words on my Cricut. And then these two things are die cuts. Well, these three things. The wine bottle, the glass, and the grapes are a die cut. But this is the die cut. It's just really simple. And I wanted my grapes piled up like a cluster. So this is what I did to make that. And I may not do the whole thing because I have one made, but I'm going to show you what I did. I did the die cut, and then I glued it on the purple because it needed a backing. Not because I am going to use that purple, but just because it needed a backing. So I just glued it good on its backing. And just the grapes part, don't need anything else because we're just going to fussy cut it out. So just glue that on there. And then very quickly, I'm just going to fussy cut this out. Let me put the top back on my glue so it doesn't stick up on us. But anyway, I ended up liking it. At first, I'll show you what I was going to do. I have this little barrel, and I was going to back it on like a metallic so it would look like the metal things on the barrel. And then I was going to put the grapes and the wine bottle down here. And it was kind of drab. Had I thought of doing this, like with the grapes and then the wine bottle, I think it would have been fine. I think I would have liked it okay. But I hadn't decided to build the cluster of grapes. And then I thought titles are always good. So title it was. That's what it ended up being. Hopefully you can use it. I know a lot of people drink wine, but I do not like it. I don't drink, period. But, I mean, I don't think it's wrong necessarily to have a glass of wine, but I just don't drink. I take some medications and some things that, but I quit drinking years ago. Actually, there's a story about that. I'll just tell you. I mostly just drank like beer, and my kids were little bitty. I mean, my son was 4, I think, maybe 5. He might have been 5, if it just barely 5 if he was, because we moved away from there when he was 5. But my husband was a golf pro. And so, you know, we'd play a round of golf with some of our country club members or whatever, and we would go in the grill at the country club and have a sandwich and drink a beer, you know, hot and thirsty and everything, and we would drink a beer. Well, one day we were sitting in there after a round of golf, and my little boy, who is now 47, came up to the table, and he just looked straight at me, and he said, "Mommy, I wish you didn't drink beer." And I pushed it away from me, my partially finished beer, and I said, "Sweetheart, I don't anymore." And that was, I quit drinking anything that moment. I thought, you know what? If my baby doesn't want me to drink beer, I don't drink beer. And that included anything. And so that moment in my life was just a checkpoint. And I said, okay, I don't. And I haven't since then. And that was about 43 years ago. So, not that I was, you know, like getting drunk or doing anything like that that was wrong or, you know, even a bad influence, but he just didn't want me to. And I thought, you know what? I'm not. All right, this is how I did this. I think this is cute. I think it's pretty. It would have been fine, but it just wasn't what I had visioned. And so I just started piling. I used my hole punch, and I just punched holes out of 3 different colors of purple to give it a little bit of variance. And then I just started on the bottom layer and did a bottom layer with all, you know, kind of varying the colors a little bit, and covered it. And then I went over it with some more layers until I got it built up like a cluster of grapes. So it would just, to me, this was just a little too boring. I wanted more. Just wanted more. Well, while I'm doing this, I will tell you, I had all of my follow-ups with all my different doctors. And if you didn't watch the video or 2 that I did when I was feeling so bad, it was the day after my birthday, and my son and his 2 boys had taken me to the movie. We were sitting in the movie, and my heart just started trying to pound out of my chest. I literally was afraid I was going to die sitting right there in the movie. I mean, I'm serious. I was afraid I was having a heart attack or something. But I didn't want to alarm anybody, so I just kept sitting there, and didn't get much better, but it got a little better. And after the movie, I told my son that I wasn't feeling good. And so we didn't let me stay alone for the next like 2 weeks. But I didn't go to the ER or anything. Probably should have, but I didn't. So that was a Friday, of course. And so Monday, I got in to see my cardiologist, or actually I think it was Tuesday before I got in to see the cardiologist, and I made an appointment with my lung doctor because I was short of breath too. And I go to a lung doctor because I have sleep apnea, and so he's sleep, lung, pulmonary, all of that kind of stuff. So I had a source for all of that. And he did every kind of test, sent me for all these tests. And then my cardiologist, just to name the tests I took, I did a nuclear stress test with a chest PET scan, heart PET scan. I did, they did an echocardiogram and an EKG. They did ultrasound on my carotid on right and left, carotid arteries. Then the lung doctor had sent me for a CT of my chest and a chest x-ray. And it seems like I left something out. But anyway, it was a ton of tests. And then of course, I had the follow-up appointments, and you're waiting, 2 weeks for a follow-up appointment, and that's scary. But anyway, I had my follow-up appointments, and everything was perfectly fine. There's a little bit of blockage in my carotid arteries on both sides, but it's very slight. And she said we'll monitor it annually. She said it's not anything to jump, to conclusions about it. It's just something that needs to be monitored annually. And my cholesterol was too high, which I've never had high cholesterol, but I have been terrible about my diet. I mean, literally the last year, I've just been terrible. I'd gained a little weight, not much, but I'd just eaten anything I wanted to, and way too many sweets. My glucose was up. It was just my time for my annual. I go to the thyroid doctor, which is also a diabetes doctor, because I've had a tumor in my throat one time, and so each year I have a little follow-up with that, and they recheck that. But anyway, my A1C was up, and I thought, there's no doubt, because I have just been stupid with my diet this last year, with the sweets and the beef and the eggs and the things. Anyway, so I've got to get my diet under control, but I think all of that will be fine with my diet. So, but everything was great. So I told my cardiologist, because about 2 weeks into all of this, I just I lost all of my appetite. Things didn't taste good. I didn't lose my taste completely, but things did not taste good. I didn't want to eat anything, and that is not like me. So, and I was foggy-headed. Oh my goodness, I was foggy-headed. It was awful. So I finally decided I had COVID. And so I told my cardiologist, and she said, I think you're right. And she said, all these tests are perfect. She said, but those symptoms that made me think I had COVID didn't develop until so much later. Everything that was presenting itself felt like it was my heart. And so anyway, but I'm feeling great, and that's all that matters. And all of my tests were good, so I've got some good tests. I told them I felt like I just got my warranty renewed. All right, so I've put the second layer onto the background, and like I said, I did all of this on my Cricut, and I just wrote just wine over it and got them where I wanted them. And then I added these 2 circles for me to rest my 2 embellishments on, because this wasn't like in Design Space or any of those things. I was just making it up on my own, and I was using die cuts. So I just added these circles that you see parts of here for those to have a place to sit. And then when I welded it all, of course, it just made this solid piece. So, and then of course, cut my words. So it's a 3-layered embellishment, the words and then 2 offsets. That I did it in, I did not do it in Cricut. I did it on my silhouette, but it's the same thing in Cricut. I just did a double offset. So we're going to put these things on here. And while I'm situating these and gluing these, I want to do the twist for today. The twist today, I'm going to use Matthew 22, 37 through 40. And, but I want to kind of do the little devotional part first, and then I'll read the scripture to you. I was just thinking about things, and I got to thinking about, and I'd listened to something too. Having a right relationship with God is just our starting place. If we don't have a right relationship with God, it's almost impossible to have a good relationship with the other people in our lives. And so if our relationship with God is out of kilter, then it makes it very difficult for us to, just have good relationships with our spouse or our kids or our friends or our coworkers, because we're in a state of unrest when we don't have our relationship with God right. And so I thought, what scripture kind of reinforces that? And there are many, but the one that I chose was Matthew 22, verses 37 through 40. And that says, and this is Jesus, when they put him on the spot and said, what's the most important commandment? When the Pharisees were questioning, they said, what's the most important commandment? And this is what was his reply. Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So Jesus actually prioritized these 2 commandments. And he said, he didn't say the others aren't valuable, but he said these 2, everything hinges on these 2. That we have to love the Lord with all our heart, all our soul, and all our mind. That's our entire being. And if we love God with our entire being, then all of the other commandments that deal with God we'll keep. And he says that's the most important thing. That's the starting point. Everything else hinges on these 2 things. And then the second one is very much like it, is we're to love our neighbor as ourselves. Of course, we love ourselves by far the most of anything else. Ourselves, our spouse, our kids. But he says, if you prioritize, if you get your relationship right with God, and then get your relationship right with the other people in your lives, then you're going to be happier. You're going to be at rest. You're going to be where you need to be. So that is our thought for today. There, I'm almost got this stuff down. Oops. There, got it. It's been so busy. Like I said, I've had company, I've had the boys, I've had everything you can have, but I am feeling better, so that helps. And then our ladies ministry group at church, every year, when the teachers start back to school, we have a day that at the little elementary school that's right next door to our church, we fix a big breakfast and a lunch for them. We provide breakfast and lunch for them, and that is tomorrow. So I've got to have all kinds of stuff up at the school at 8:15 in the morning. And my daughter's 4 boys, excuse me, went to school there. So and it's a K through 4 campus. So we have spent the last 7 years at that campus going to, excuse me, all of the activities, play days, music programs. Excuse me. Let me get a drink. And I mean, those teachers were just, well, actually, one of the teachers there, I taught her when she was in high school. And she's like in her 40s now. So she and I really have a special relationship. And then I had a grandson that we had to do ARDS. You know, he was in special programs. I had to do ARDS. And so we've, you know, sat in a lot of ARD meetings. But anyway, we've just really grown close. And it was almost like we were just crying, literally, when we went to the last little program that we went to this last year, because we were done with that school, and it has been an amazing little campus and good for our boys. And so when I walk in the morning, I'm gonna say I'm back because my son and daughter-in-law, they live in this school district, but they've had their boys in the school district right next to it because that's where they teach, both of them. And my daughter-in-law is going to teach at the school where my daughter is as an administrator, and it's an online school. So, and then their boys have to be picked up every day. So it just wasn't going to work. So anyway, long story short, we moved them to that school district because it's right by our houses. Okay, so anyway, here we are. Like I said, I built in these circles so that I could set my embellishments on them. So I'm going to go ahead and put our grapes that we made, our cluster of grapes, on there. I'm probably working off screen when I get those up there to glue, but it's easier for me to see. Anyway, I'm going to put the cluster of grapes on this circle that I added on there. Let's see where we want it. Something like that, I think. If you've got a Cricut or a can or a silhouette or something, don't be afraid to just try things. Let me show you this little die cut set that I took these off of. There's actually 2 on this one, but it has the little grape cluster, it has the wine glass, the wine bottle, and then the wine barrel. And that, I thought I was going to do that. And like I said, after I got this cluster of grapes done, and it wasn't this just kind of plain one, I think it would have been okay. But I decided to just go with the title. And so let me tell you how I did this, because I wanted it to look like it had writing on it. And so I had a little, here it is actually, this itsy bitsy teeny tiny, I mean, you couldn't read it, I don't think, if your life depended on it, script writing. And so I got a paper that just barely had a tiny little pattern in it, and I stamped that on there. And I did it in the black soot, but it's like 2nd or 3rd generation instead of the bold, so that it'd look old and kind of vintagey looking maybe. And that's how I made my little label. And then, of course, this is just the die cut, but I do want to give it a little shadowing. And this is just my leftover dauber from my black soot when I was doing those. I just colored the top of the bottle to look like I just used a marker for that. And going to we'll put our label on, and then we'll trim it and then ink it again. I cut it bigger than it needed just so I'd be sure and have it big enough. It's not the scissors I want. Those are curved. I love these little scissors. I have the little curved pair and the straight pair, and they are amazing. At the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo, each year there's this couple that have a booth there, and they sell scissors and different types of things like that. And I've bought several. I bought both of those little pair. I bought this pair. Let me show them to you that these are my fussy cutting scissors, and oh, I love them. They're amazing. I bought them from them. And I've bought some other things also, but those are just awesome. Now, I cut my little wine glass out of vellum. That one's kind of bent. Let me see if I have another one in here. Yeah, here's another one. That one seemed kind of bent. I cut my little wine glass out of vellum just to kind of give it that glass look. Let me make sure I got the right side here. Yep, that's right. And I'm going to just put a little bit of tape on it and stick it to my wine glass, to my wine bottle. And I'm going to fix it so that the glass is going to be straight, and I'll tilt the bottle just a little bit. Oops, wrong side. That didn't work. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to set that right up there, but I'm going to put it on some foam. Kind of got a mess on my thingy here. Peel, come on. There we go. There we go. And then we're going to set this one right up here. Set the glass straight and let the bottle tilt. And there we have our just wine over it. There we go. So that's what we came up with today. Thank you for dropping by my channel. I am going to try to get more things up. I'll get my boys back in school next Monday. I've got to do Mel's hop. If you haven't been watching Mel Walken from Tasmania, I'm sure most of you probably watch her. She does a lot over on Ginger's Corner, and she just does a lot everywhere. Anyway, she is having her 1,000 subscriber hop, and I cannot wait to do a layout for her hop. I love to watch her. She and I have developed a sweet friendship, and she is just a jewel. She's like one of my very favorite channels, and I just love to hear her talk, and she's just such an asset to our scrapbooking community that I can't wait to do the hop that honors her. And so anyway, I will get that done and get it posted hopefully in the next couple of days. and then I'll hopefully be back on track. But then my semester starts, and I'm gonna have puppies. I've got 2 dogs that'll be having puppies, so it's gonna be crazy. But you know, it's always crazy with me. So just help me and join the ride. Thanks for dropping by. I appreciate you so much. You're my you're my friends. I live alone. You're my friends. I feel like I'm just talking to you. And so have a blessed day and be a blessing to someone else.